Hi everyone, welcome back to Planet Dirt. My name is Alicia. I was having a little bit of technical issues there at the beginning, but I'll cut those out later, don't worry. My frost is tomorrow. My very first frost of the season is tomorrow. And I have spent the last 2 days pulling out tomato plants, and it's taking me forever. So I shouldn't say that. The first day it is windy, my goodness. The first day I was really just pulling out everything that was in front of the tomato plants. And then yesterday I spent a good 2.5 hours. Just pulling out tomato plants and separating them. So I'll show you what I did. So over here is where the tomato plants started, right here. And they were pretty tall. They were like up to here. And so I started on this end, and my goal was to just work my way this way. And I mean, it sort of worked. I've gotten that much. But you want to see something sad? So all up in all of these plants, look at how many green tomatoes there are. There's so many green tomatoes everywhere. It's crazy, crazy. There's still a few red ones here and there. Those are the little tiny cherry tomatoes that I gave up on trying to pick them out because there are just too many. So this was a total, I believe, of 6 cherry tomato plants, and then there was 1 Roma on the end. And off of that single Roma plant, I got almost an entire box of green Roma tomatoes. Like maybe 3 of them were red, and then a couple were blushing, and then I would say 90% of them were green. So I pulled all those out, and I filled up one of these boxes yesterday just with green tomatoes. This is everything that was blushing, and then that's how few were actually red. So I still got a lot of work to do today because all of this needs to come out because there are tons of red tomatoes still in there that I need to get. And so if you look in here, like there's big old clumps of red tomatoes, but this is just like a mass of tomato. I stopped pruning out here because I made a boo-boo. I stopped pruning out here probably, oh goodness, I probably only heavily pruned like once or twice out here. So I probably stopped pruning in early July in this space. And that was my bad. And this is what happens when you don't prune cherry tomatoes. So these things completely took over. They were falling on the other side of my neighbor's fence, and I can barely get to them back there. And so I didn't want to have to try to pull whatever was over there off of my neighbor's side. And so I went over there and I just like plopped them back this way so that they fell on each other towards me, which is fine, but that means that this is all very, very dense. So it's kind of a mess. Is what it is. And I'm gonna get in there, and I have probably an hour or so before I have to go run some errands. So I'm going to get what I can off of this. I started on that side the other day, and I think today I'm gonna start on this side because I think I'll feel like I'm getting more accomplished if I start on this side because there are big slicers over on this side. You can't see them because of all of the cherry tomato foliage that has fallen on top of them. But these are slicers. You can kind of see in there. These are a little bit bigger. And then the only cherry that has made its way up here is like a little pear-shaped cherry. And so those ones are a little bit easier to grab, and they pull right off the plant pretty easily. So I'm going to start on this side and work my way that way today. And then I doubt I'm actually going to finish because like I said, I only have about an hour. But I also, before the frost comes tomorrow night, I also need to pull out these tomatillos too because there's a bunch on there. And basically, I'm pulling out anything that is going to be damaged, where the fruit is going to be damaged by a light frost. So I'm not trying to do a full clean out or anything, but I do need to try to get as much of this out as I can so that I'm not losing even more fruit. It is a little bit heartbreaking though. Let me take you over really quick before I get started to see, this is all that I've torn out already. And it looks really sad right now, but this is like the pile of all of the foliage that I took out. And you can see there are so many tomatoes in here, but they're all just barely not mature enough to be able to ripen off the vine, I don't think. And so I had to make some hard decisions, you guys. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be tossing that many tomatoes. So I'm gonna grab my gloves. I'm gonna get in here and just do the best I can. And my goodness, it is windy. So I'm gonna start over here, I think. My goodness, it's a mess. Okay. I did have some big slicers over here though that were, oh, and I can see a bunch of green ones too. There were a couple that were red yesterday, which was exciting. But my goodness, it's just a big old mess. So I have my 3 boxes over here, depending on the ripeness. And we're just gonna get in and see what needs to be done. Oh my goodness. So all of these plants are just like going onto my neighbor's yard. And my neighbor is a very nice man. I don't think that he would care, but he's also not a gardener. He has literally nothing in his backyard. So I don't think that he would appreciate volunteer tomato plants like I would. Ooh, there's some big ones back here. Oh my goodness. This is why you prune, people. Prune your tomatoes. There are like very big, oh, I almost fell over. There are lots of big slicers though over here, which is exciting because these are all big enough that I will be able to, oh no. Oh, okay, good. They're all big enough that I'll be able to ripen them inside, which is really what I want to do. Oh, look at all these big ones. Y'all, my cherries went so crazy that I basically like only got cherries. I shouldn't say that. I got a bunch of Romas. Look at that. Look at all these big guys. I mean, they're not huge, but they're big. And I do have a bunch of these boxes because we drink a lot of energy drinks in my house. It's like our one really unhealthy thing that we do. Okay, don't judge me. Like if we had to give up everything except for one unhealthy thing, it would definitely be energy drinks. So I have a bunch of those boxes, and my plan is to take all of these green tomatoes and then just lay them out inside and let them ripen inside. Because we have a day, y'all. I've been checking the weather, like hoping, oh no, like hoping that it would like come back up because it's literally only supposed to freeze tomorrow night. So all of the days around it are like 38 is the lowest it's going to get. So on Sunday night, it's going to be back up to 38. And so I keep watching it, like hoping that maybe it'll only dip to 34 or 35. And no, it's like pretty consistently staying at like 30, like not even like 32. It's staying at like 30. So I'm like pretty confident that it is going to actually freeze. And some of these tomatoes are kind of small. So I'm going to bring you over here really quick. So some of these tomatoes are kind of small in there. But I'm hoping that they're mature enough that they will still ripen. Hopefully. That's the plan. That's the goal. That's the goal with all of these things. Because honestly, I have a lot of I have a lot already in the freezer right now for, oh my goodness, because I'm going to make sauces this year. I have never gotten enough tomatoes to actually make sauces before. So every year before this, I've only gotten enough to like eat fresh and make a couple of things of salsa kind of a thing, but I've never gotten enough to even try to make sauce. And so this year, I think I have like 5 or so gallon bags in the freezer. So like this one, this is a good example. So this right here, I'm gonna make sure you can see this. So this one right here has that little clump on it. And like that one, maybe would be big enough, mature enough to ripen inside. But the other ones are so underdeveloped that they wouldn't actually turn red if I brought them inside anyway. So this whole thing is just going in the compost pile. And it's unfortunate because there's so many that are like that. But I also have so many green tomatoes in general that I'm not being super picky, especially when it comes to the cherry tomatoes. Like if it's not big enough or I think it's borderline, then I'm just tossing it in the compost because there are just so many. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right. A bunch of these tomatillos are like a mess. Absolute mess. These are all so tangled in on each other that I'm ending up like having to like cut off a chunk at a time and hopefully not drop too much on the ground over here. But that's also why I did it, why I'm doing it like this instead of going behind, is because it's really hard for me to get back there. And so I don't want to be dropping fruit where I can't actually get to it. Okay, and I don't even know where this goes. Oh, it's like several plants. Okay. Oh my goodness, you guys, this is insane. All right, there were a couple of red slicing tomatoes yesterday when I was out here, but not very many. And so I just grabbed the red ones that I could see pretty easily. I just went ahead and grabbed those, and they're already in here. That's why I'm not pulling off any big red slicers. Do tomatoes ripen better, like if you leave them on the vine? Is that like a thing? Like I feel like that's a thing. I could definitely be wrong. I don't know what this is. Well, it snapped at some point. So end to end, this vine is probably a good 10 feet long. That's insane. But hey, I can see stuff. All right, so this is another good example. So that's a good like little bunch right there, but the fruits are so small. Like maybe I'll grab the big one that's on there, but the fruits are so small that there's no way those are gonna ripen inside. So usually when I'm picking like cherry tomatoes and stuff, I'll usually just pick off the actual fruit off the vine. I won't like leave the vine on there. But because I'm picking so many, I'm kind of being lazy right now. Like I would usually go through the extra trouble out here so that I don't have to do it later. But honestly, I just want to get these plants out and then I'll deal with whatever else we have inside. My goodness. I also have a million cherry tomatoes already in my freezer. So I don't know if you guys have tried there was a viral recipe, like, I don't know, probably 2 years ago now, that was like Boursin cheese, and you like put it in a baking pan and then you bake it with cherry tomatoes and that like creates a sauce and then you add pasta to it. That one is actually really, really good, especially for the level of effort. Like it's super, super easy and the taste is phenomenal. So I had an abundance of cherry tomatoes coming out. And so what I did was I just started freezing them in like, not the gallon size bags, like the quart size bags, so that one bag is like enough for one recipe. So I can just pull one bag out, toss it in the pan with the cheese. My goodness, it's windy. Okay. All right, another reason why this is super messy, because there is a trellis back there, but you can't really tell because the weight of the plants has pulled this over. And that is because I'm not smart. And again, I did not, I did not prune when I should have pruned. And literally the weight of the tomato plants snapped the zip ties that were keeping this trellis connected to the T-posts. So, I don't know. You live and you learn. This is the first year. Oh, that's a nice little one. This is the first year that I have had these raised beds over here. I had an in-ground garden in this spot last year, and it didn't do great, but all I had over here was squash, like pumpkins and summer squash. They didn't do great. I got some off of it, but the soil over here is not wonderful. And so when we redid the greenhouse beds earlier this year, my husband was like, well, why don't you just take the beds out of the greenhouse since we're getting rid of them and put them over there? And that was a great idea. So that's what we did. And it obviously, the soil was great, obviously, judging by this jungle, and things definitely grew a lot better over here. But this is the first time that I've grown anything really substantial in this bed. And so I didn't think about how heavy these plants were going to get and how much support they actually needed. So I will have a better game plan next year. That is all I'm going to say about that. All right, my green tomato box is already filling up. And I am dropping so many tomatoes as I'm pulling these because there's really not much I can really do about that. Woo! All right. Oh, there it is. See? Look at that big old beautiful, beautiful tomato. I grew, so this year I grew, it's like a pear-shaped cherry tomato, and I absolutely love it. It did really well. It's insanely prolific. I will grow it again next year, but I think next year I'm only going to grow that cherry, and then I have another one that's called black cherry, and it's a bigger cherry tomato, like an actual cherry, like a true cherry, not like the baby cherries. Because what I discovered about myself this year is that I'm not a huge fan of picking all of the cherry tomatoes like individually off of the plants. I'm just not a huge fan of having to do that all the time. So, learn something about myself, and I will be, I'm just dropping so many tomatoes. I will be adjusting a few things for next year. So I think I'm going to grow only 2 cherries and only 2 types of cherries and only 2 cherry tomato plants, because both of those cherry tomatoes are insanely prolific. Absolutely insane how prolific they are. And as much as I love cherry tomatoes, they have their place, and their place is not my entire tomato bed. They need to have just their little area where if they go nuts, then they go nuts and whatever. All right, there's some more big old slicers. So I have a few different kinds of slicers in here, and I think I'm going to try to find like a big slicer next year, like maybe just like a good old Abe Lincoln or something, because I have a bunch that are definitely delicious, but the biggest ones I've gotten have been like maybe that big. They're not impressively big. Oh man, this literally, I can see oh my goodness. I can see the T-post, and it literally ripped the T-post out. Leo, what are you doing? You gonna come say hi? All right. Yeah, so there's a million cherry tomatoes still in here. And I think, yeah, these are absolutely wild. And most of the slicers are just completely green still, so I'm gonna have to take them inside. I don't have like an insanely short season or anything. Oh, there's one that's blushing up there. I don't have like a super short season or anything, but I don't have a particularly long one either. So it needs, I do have to get my timing right, or this happens. And actually my timing wasn't awful this year. It is what I had next to it. So next year I'll be doing a few things differently. I have corn that I planted next to all of these plants, and there used to be corn stalks right here too. And what that did early in the season is it shaded those plants out, the tomato plants that were over here. It shaded them out early enough that I think that it took them a lot longer to get going than it should have. And so I didn't start getting slicers until, oh, there's a few in here that fell. So I didn't start getting red slicers until like early August. And like my season is not short enough for that to be the case. Like my last frost is in early May usually. And I put out started plants, right? It's not like I'm putting out, it's not like I'm direct seeding these plants. And so I should be getting them earlier than that and then more consistently after that. And that just was not the case this year. And I think it's because I did stunt them early by what I put next to them. So I won't be doing that again. Next year, I'm going to put them on, I'm going to put them basically where the corn was, because I put the corn there to shade out the squash that was in this bed, because the squash gets really hot during our summers and it ends up suffering. And it worked out great for that, but it worked a little too well. So I think I'm only going to put corn on the far side of this bed next year. And I'm going to only put corn over there this next year. And then on the diagonals right here, I'm going to do arch trellises over the beds so that I can plant tomatoes this way instead of this way. And that way the tomatoes will have plenty of sun in the early summer, late spring, early summer to get going. And hopefully that will help me get a slightly earlier harvest. That's the goal. Isn't that always the goal? That's always the goal. All right, I am nearing the end of my time out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I have any. See, look at how tiny some of these. This isn't even the tiniest one. You know how tiny some of these are. I think I'm going to just go in and see if I can see any other big slicers in there. See how crazy it is back there? And it literally pulled the T-post out of the ground. Isn't that insane? So, all right. Hi, everyone. I see you. All right, but yeah, so look how dense this is. And if you pull it back, like I can't lift this up. That's how dense it is. It's all just folded in on itself. So that's why I kind of have to start on the side and like work my way in. But hey, whatever works, right? Alrighty, y'all. I think I'm going to call it for right now. I'm sure I will be back out later tonight trying to do a little bit more. But let's look really quick. Let's look at the spoils. Let's look at the spoils really quick. So these are all of the tomatoes that are like blushing but not fully ripe. These are the ripe ones. And then over here is the giant box of green tomatoes. And this is why I'm being insanely stingy with, oh man, it's super windy again. This is why I'm being super stingy with the cherry tomatoes, because there are just so many that are still green that I would probably fill up my entire kitchen counter with just green cherry tomatoes if I pulled them all. A million years too, probably. It would take me forever. Alrighty, there's the progress. I mean, if you look over here, I did actually make progress yesterday. It just didn't feel like it. So yeah, it's what it is. I'm sure I'll be back out here later trying to finish. I will leave you with a view of these glorious pumpkins though. Look at that. Look at these beautiful pumpkins all up in there. That one's probably the prettiest. That one's the biggest. And then this one's a Long Island cheese pumpkin. And I didn't think it was going to have time to size up before the frost, but it totally did. It's a good size. And I'm probably going to have to pick that one tomorrow and pull it inside because it has not cured yet, but I can cure it inside. I just don't want the frost to damage it before it has a chance to cure. Alrighty, but that is the mess, guys. I hope wherever you're at, you have a little bit longer to go before your last frost. But yeah, thanks for coming along with me today. I hope I see you next time. Bye.